What's going on, guys? It is finally here, the Sony Xperia 1 Mark 7, and it feels like it's been a long time. It really feels like
it's been 84 years.
Because a bunch of other people managed to get this a month ago. But I am glad that it is finally here. So what I'm going to do is a quick unboxing. I do still have an Xperia 1 Mark 5, the last Xperia to have a 4K display. So I'll use that to compare this one to. And I was pre-briefed on this product more than a month ago, so I do know what's been changed on the device, although I haven't actually had much of a chance to see it in person. So this will be the first time that I'm seeing it properly. I think it's pretty safe to say that there's no charger in this box. And this one right here is in fact slate black, 12 gigs of RAM and 250 gigs of storage. And I have heard that some regions will get the 512 gig option of this also. And there are two other color options. There's the moss green, which looks really, really nice. And there's also an orchid purple version, which also looks really nice. And I do kind of wish they'd have sent me one of those colors as opposed to this one, but hey, can't complain. It's here. Sony's going with the usual recycled materials here. So just a little sticker right here. Let's get it off. Got a little bit of embossed Xperia branding. And here we have the phone. And it does look a bit different. I'm not sure what it is straight away, but it looks a little bit different from how I remember the Mark 6. So the back of this phone still got that rippled texture, which gives it a nice grip. Also reduces the amount of fingerprints. That is Victus on the back. And before we get into all the changes that Sony have made here, let's see what else is in this box. So there is a lot of paper. And actually, I've just discovered here, the code name for this phone is the XQ FS54. There's even just a random blank bit of paper here with a barcode. I thought this was an instruction guide because the cover shows that, but then once you open it up, there's just loads and loads of small print, important information, another language of important information, and even a couple more books for a couple more languages. And this is a first, I think, for Sony. There is no cable in this box. I did not expect that. I mean, it's not like I'm running short on cables, but I'm a little bit surprised to see that there is no charging cable here. Anyway, now let's get this powered up. So you've still got that fingerprint power button here on the right side. Volume rocker, nice and tactile. And then we've got the shutter button there as well. So this one right here is the Mark 5. This is the Mark 7. And this is a change they've made from the Mark 6. The shutter button is now a bit larger. Hopefully you guys can see that. Something that I noticed here, and I think the Mark 6 had it as well, is on the Mark 5, it has this kind of blue tint over the primary camera. And the Mark 7 doesn't appear to have that anymore. Can you see that little blue tint right there? The Mark 7 appears to just have clear glass lenses this time. So the camera module is very similar to the Mark 6, but quite a bit different from the Mark 5. And you can even see the camera rings seem to be a bit bigger as well and compared to this. And this is just a couple of years old now. It's still got the Zeiss T-Star coatings on the lenses. Let's see if the SIM tray is still easy to remove without a tool. I just cut my nails, so let's see. Yeah, it's still easy. So this is a 256 gig phone. But the good news is you can chuck a terabyte of SD memory in here if you want to. And I think because Sony are kind of marketing this as a camera phone and a creator tool, the SD card could be super useful, because if you're filming 4K footage on your phone and you want to edit it on a computer, you can film it straight to the SD card and then literally just pop that out, put it in the computer and start editing. And yes, I am a full-time content creator, so this phone is kind of designed for people like me. And these are my headphones that I actually use for editing. And the great thing about this phone is this. It does have a headphone jack. And I'm told this isn't just a regular headphone jack. This actually has Walkman tech inside and even gold solder.
I love gold.
So I'm really happy to see that Sony has kept that. Also, they've kept the forward-facing stereo speakers, so they're literally in these two little slits here, firing straight towards you. most phones will fire downwards and outwards this way. So that's definitely something that's going to make the Xperia 1 Mark 7 a bit different. Also, I'm told that they've improved the speakers on this phone by 10% in the mids and bass frequencies. And you know what? I'm a big fan of this textured back. And actually, you can see the Sony logo there. It's kind of glossy. That's the only part of the back that's glossy. And that's probably the only place where you could leave proper fingerprints on it. But it's so small you probably never see them. A subtle change that Sony's made to the design in comparison to the 5 and also the 6 is these ridges down the side are now a lot more fine. And actually, in some lights, it looks like they're not there at all, but they are. And that gives the edges of the phone a little more grip as well. Who remembers that Sony phone, the XZ5, I think it was, that was super slippery? Yeah, that was crazy. Now, there is a subtle upgrade here, which you wouldn't notice just by looking at the phone. But actually, Sony have added an extra luminance sensor. So there are now 2 instead of 1. That means that the screen can adjust more accurately and the phone can understand its surroundings better based off of the measurements from those light sensors. All right, let's fast forward a little bit because it's going to take me around 85 years to set this phone up now. Okay, so I'm just in the middle of setting this phone up and then something caught my eye and it's kind of funny. I wanted to show you guys. That is a very inconvenient crop there on the Google Assistant instructions. Surely that cannot be intentional. Okay, so we're finally all set up. There's a pretty big update to do. Now, from my understanding, the display on this phone is exactly the same one used on the Mark 6. However, because they've now got that new light sensor, this display can actually get a little bit brighter in direct sunlight. And I'm told the auto color adjustments have also improved. The glass used on the display is Victus 2 and the frame is metal. Now, there are really 2 big hardware upgrades to this phone in comparison to the Mark 6. One is, of course, the new chipset. So this is rocking a Snapdragon 8 Elite, which is the best of the best at the time of this video. And the new Snapdragon chipset doesn't just improve the GPU and the CPU, it also improves the AI abilities. Now, I have heard some people saying that there isn't much AI going on this phone, but there is when it comes to camera. There's some brand new AI auto framing, and I think there's a feature called AI camera work, where literally it can film the vertical and a wide shot at the same time, and then you can kind of edit them for platforms like TikTok and Instagram, and then also for YouTube and things like that. For a creator, that is a really useful tool. And I'm told that auto framing is really good. So if you set up a really wide shot, you can pinpoint what you want to track within that field of view, and then you can punch in and film the wide simultaneously. So on the camera side of things, we've still got the same sensors for the primary and the telephoto. We've still got that 7.1x lossless zoom, where there's literally a piece of sliding glass that can move back and forwards to adjust the focal length. And this should result in less quality drop off at those longer distances. Now, the big upgrade here is the ultra wide. Okay, so the ultra wide sensor on the Xperia 1 Mark 7 is now 48 megapixels. It's more than twice as big as the one used on the Mark 6. It's 1/1.56 inch. And because it's a much bigger sensor, that should mean it's much better in lower light settings. And also this will be very useful when it comes to that camera work feature that I just spoke about. Here's a little sample photo, Xperia 1 Mark 5 versus Xperia 1 Mark 7. The difference in the brightness on the displays between these two is instantly noticeable. Let's chuck these on a computer and see how they look. We still got that tele macro mode, which is fantastic when it comes to nailing focus because there is no autofocus. So you literally have to dial it in yourself until it looks perfect, and then you can take your shot. It is definitely nice to have autofocus, but also sometimes autofocus messes things up. Look at the details on that. That is crazy. So the phone is essentially using that sliding telephoto lens to get these really close-up shots. And then you have to put your own effort in to nail the focus. I'm genuinely blown away by how good this looks. Full disclosure, guys, I was just looking at my notes from the briefing over a month ago, and actually it turns out the SD card slot in this phone supports up to 2 terabytes, not 1 that I mentioned earlier. Wireless charging is still supported, and the wired charging speed here is 30 watts. Battery type and capacity is the same as the Mark 6, 5,000 milliamp hours. Now, before we wrap this up, there is one little experiment that I want to run. I want to see if I could notice a difference between the 4K display on the Mark V and the Full HD display on the Mark VII when playing the same content from YouTube. So I'm going to load up the new Superman trailer. Whoa, look at that animation when you unlock the phone. It's like a blade goes across the screen and kind of animates all nice. Anyway, let's get the Superman trailer going. Okay, so this is actually a good opportunity to test the audio upgrade since the 5 as well. So I'll play the audio from the 5 first, max out the volume, and then we'll do the same with the Mark VII.
You're being serious right now?
Yeah,
You'd let me interview you as Superman.
sure.
Ready?
Let's do it, Cronkite.
Today, the Secretary of Defense said he was going to look into your actions. That's funny. You illegally entered a country.
This is how you're gonna be?
I'm not the one being interviewed, Superman. Did you consult with the president?
No.
You
Yeah,
seemingly
you
act
could
as
definitely notice a bit
representative
more
of the
bass.
United States
Representing
because
anybody
more
except for
problems
me.
around the world.
And doing good.
In terms of the actual picture quality, they're very, very similar. Colors look pretty much identical. Yeah, there's not that much in it, to be honest. Okay, so this video was completely unrehearsed and off the cuff. I was just going to do a 1-minute unboxing, short video, no talking, but then I thought might as well turn it into a proper video and explain some of the upgrades that people haven't spoken about yet. There are already a bunch of really good reviews out there on this phone, so let me know if you want to see a review from me or whether you want to see something different. Camera comparison, camera test, maybe benchmark test. This is your opportunity to request your Sony Xperia 1 content that you want to see on the channel. So make sure you leave me a comment. And I do have some ideas of my own, but I really want to make the content that you guys want to see the most. So do let me know. Appreciate you guys for watching this one, and I will see you in the next one. Don't be late.